opportunity for us to link with many of the eminent people who are working in the water sector. Now, National Water Mission had been organizing a lot of talks on the water and water-related activities. Some of our panelists also had been part of those water seminars. We had something called as water talks starting from 22nd March of 2019, the World Water Day, and it's almost 2 years now. And we have almost completed 23 water talks by now, where the eminent people used to come and speak about their experiences. So two of the panelists today here are also, they had also come and given their talk on this matter. We also had started something called as the Water Tech Talk, where every second Friday we have people talking on water technologies. Okay, that's a bit about the National Water Mission. And today's topic is very catching the rain. Catch the rain, blending community ownership and technology innovation in sustainable water conservation. Every word is important for the National Water Mission, because Catch the Rain campaign is the flagship campaign of the National Water Mission, which has been taking place since February 2020. Because of the restrictions imposed by the COVID and the COVID pandemic, we had moved on to the institutional arrangements for the Catch the Rain campaign. Somebody's Anil, who is Anil? Can you switch off your? Okay, yeah, okay. So we had taken up to the institutions first, the Army, Air Force, Navy.
Sir, your mic is muted.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. So we took this campaign in the first phase through institutions because of the restrictions imposed by the COVID. So we took up with the institutions like Army, Air Force, Navy, and central universities, IITs, IIMs, then public sector undertakings, religious institutions, etc., who have large chunks of land with them. We started in the first phase there. Basically, Catch the Rain campaign is to catch the rain where it falls, when it falls. It is a sort of a decentralized water conservation. We actually, the whole sentence of the Catch the Rain campaign is catch the rain where it falls, when it falls, is to nudge the state and the stakeholders to create appropriate rainwater harvesting structures suitable to the climatic conditions and the soil strata conditions, with active people's participation before the onset of monsoon. Here also, every word is important. So this has been a successful campaign in the last 6 months. We had almost 150 webinars also organized. And people are in the mood to catch the rain. So we are awaiting the arrival of monsoon, and we are trying to keep the natural containers or vessels ready to see that the water which the rain gives us are caught and stored for the summer. In a longer perspective, we feel that if this rainwater is stored in the when the rainwater comes in the monsoon period, if it is caught and stored, probably we can see that the water requirements and the water problems of water in the summer can be addressed, because the water is stored in these natural containers. It will be available in our soil as soil moisture or as in the aquifers. So that can help us during the summers. So probably in the long run, we may look for a drinking water tanker Mukta Bharat. This is now you can see these drinking water tankers all over the place in summer, because we are not conserving water for the summer period. So the some subtle message is that we can go for a drinking water tanker Mukta Bharat during summers if we store the water, rainwater harvesting structures. Now, as I said, every word in the today's topic is very important. So first I said about the catch the rain, and then is blending community ownership. We believe in the government as well as the National Water Mission that unless people get involved, unless there's a participatory management, we will not be able to solve the water problem in the country. So community ownership and community participation is the key theme. If you look at India's water statistics, we get sufficient rainfall, but we store only very little amount of it. That's why we have a problem of water, and it is because we are not doing the water management properly. If you do the water management properly, probably we can tide over a lot of crises which we are facing in day-to-day life. For that management, it cannot be a government-driven drive. It has to be a people-driven drive, and the people should get actually involved. So community ownership is very important, because we find that the classic case of what you call as the tragedy of commons. Water and the tanks, water bodies in the state are a common property, and nobody maintains it. And we, over the years, have developed, I would say, disrespect for water. We have not only lost respect for water, we have developed disrespect for water. We dump all our solid waste, debris, sewage in the water bodies available and pollutes the water. We have scant respect for them, with the old water bodies like ponds and lakes. We have encroached them, built buildings on them, and by dumping the debris and all, the volume has been of the capacity of the tanks have reduced. By keeping this sewage flowing into it, we see that the pure water body gets polluted. So unless community comes forward to own it and brings a lot of community ownership, we will not be able to sustain it. So for sustainability, community ownership is very important, and technology innovation is very important. We can save a lot of water by simple methods of digging pits and making the water store there. We always say that, in a watershed approach, the water which runs has to be made to walk, and the water which is walked should be made to stop, and then sink the water in the ground so that the water table increases and the water soil moisture increases. And also it helps to release water slowly to the wetlands and to the rivers and ensure the continuity of flow of water. These are all part, we all are aware of it. And a very interesting side effect of this Catch the Rain campaign, we realized, was the reduction or the mitigation of the urban flooding. If you notice, over the last 10 years, we have seen many cities coming under or reeling under the flooding. Hyderabad, Mumbai, Chennai are the places where we never heard of flooding, but now they're all flooded in summer during the rainy season. This is because of the urbanization, of concretization and tiling of all the land available there. So all this water which used to fall on the ground and then sink to the ground and increase the water table is now flowing onto the road through these small stormwater drains which were supposed to carry the water of the roads. All the water from these compounds come to this stormwater drain, overflow it, damage the roads, goes to the the low-lying areas, creates floods. So if you can catch the rain and store it in a decentralized way, probably we can, in addition to saving water, we can also probably avoid urban flooding. So it's a multiple use of it. So that is maybe a simple ways, but technology, where technology comes in from. See, there are small innovations, local jugaads, I would say, to save the rainwater. Rainwater harvesting structures to be built. See, there are small innovations. I've seen the water talks, many people who are using small innovations to save it. We have one of our panelists here, Umarkant Rao. He was one of our water talk, person who's talking the water talk. He had propagated the concept of tanks in every khet, har khet mein pani. So this Catch the Rain campaign actually translates to khar ka pani khar mein, khet ka pani khet mein, and gav ka pani gav mein. That should be there. So you should not let the water go out and then become a flood every other places. We try to store it. This is a local jugaad which has been very successfully done in Bundelkhand area. There are Pushpendra Bai and other lot of innovation. Paramarth Niketan, they have also done a lot of work in this, calling Jalshahelis and all these things to conserve the water where it falls. Now, technology, as I said, can also help. In India, water harvesting, water is maximum use in agriculture. Everybody is aware of it. And 85 to 90% of the water is in agriculture. And our water footprint in all the agricultural products are very, very high. When a farmer of a USA or other place uses 800 liters to produce a kilo of rice, our farmers use 3,000 liters or 4,000 liters of water for producing per kilo of rice. So our waterproof footprint is very high, primarily because our water use efficiency is very low. India is probably one of the lowest water use efficiencies. So this is where technology can help. We have in our water tech talks, which we used to held every second Friday, we had people coming from Israel and talking to us on the very advanced technology they use, the precision irrigation system, where using artificial intelligence, they give the right quantity of water at the right place at the right time. But that is probably too expensive, but we also still can go for a lesser technology like sprinkler irrigation, drip irrigation, and micro irrigation systems, which can also save a lot of water. So we need to have technology, low-cost technology, appropriate technology supporting us in our campaign to conserve the water. So all the 3 points, community ownership, technology, and innovation, all are very essential to conserve the rainwater. And we have to catch the rain. See that's the only source of water for us. India, I think probably 80 to 85% of the area gets rainfall, and that rain is the only source of water. So I wish that this initiative which the World Bank group has taken up, and the initiative which the National Water Mission has been taken up for the last 6 months, will help us in getting the awareness on the people. And let me tell you one very interesting thing which we are going to do now. In December 21, 2020, we started the second phase of the Catch the Rain campaign, campaign awareness generation part, with the help of Nehru Yuva Kendras. So almost all these districts in the country are now part of it, and they have done competitions, quiz competitions, and rallies, and padayatras, and nukkad nadaks. Almost 30-35 lakh people have been involved. That was the first part of it, the awareness generation campaign. But probably on the March 22nd, the next water day, we may be looking for a much bigger campaign, Jal Shakti Abhiyan Part 2, be covering the entire country. And everybody, probably we may ask people from all Gram Panchayats to take oath or do shapath. And some activities are being planned. Make Jal Andolan, Jan Andolan as per the wishes of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister had been repeatedly telling in his Mann Ki Baat about the need of water. We are talking about a $5 trillion economy. We need water because most of the inputs require water. For any of these industrial concerns require water, and there's a lot of things which we can do to conserve water there. Whether it is reuse of water, reducing the water by using appropriate industrial processes, whether it is recycling of the water or reusing the water, we can do a lot. We can save a lot of water and conserve water. So I thank the organizers of this meet for taking up this program and bringing such eminent panelists from various parts of the country, even outside the country panelists are here, and to discuss about conserving water. Thanks a lot. So let's hope that Catch the Rain campaign picks up and it catches up momentum, and we will look for a drinking water tanker Mukta Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the context and sharing so much information about the Catch the Rain campaign, and for highlighting the importance of technology, community and really a decent framework as being in the center of a sustainable management policy or a water management plan, and also for sharing information about the C2. Now I would request Mr. Yuvraj Ahuja from World Bank to kindly take over this session.
Thank you, Shreya. Good afternoon. Welcome, and thank you everybody for joining today. We have a very rich two panels and a keynote address. Mr. Ajit Radhakrishnan, who is our country coordinator, somebody who's worked in the water sector and agriculture sector for many years now, and is currently leading the 2030 WRG work in India. I would request him to please present on 2030 WRG and our multi-stakeholder approach that we follow and the India program. Ajit, over to you, please.
Thank you, Raj. And thank you, Ashok sir, for the kind of context that you have set here. I think enough has been said about the importance of the need to actually now take a proactive approach in water conservation, and that too from a rainwater harvesting perspective. We all believe and we all are stakeholders in this process. And so I would not be speaking about the importance or the need for pressing action here. But what we would like to share before this audience and before we get into the real meat of this discussion, which is more about the technical content, about community participation, and also the innovations that most of us promote here, is the approach that we need to take, approach that we are advocating here, which is in sync with what the National Water Mission is talking about, is what it is propagating. So this is a stakeholder-driven approach, as Ashokji just mentioned, that it has to be community-owned, it has to be community participatory, and it has to be broad-based in its scope and also in its activities that it designs. So the work that 2030 Water Resources Group does in India and across the world is broadly stakeholder-driven and has got the elements of stakeholder participation, as Ashokji just mentioned, that you need to have strong community participation right from the design stage or the concept stage to implementation. So the 2030 Water Resources Group is a public-private partnership platform that is hosted by the World Bank and works in the 14 developing countries that you have seen, and is in the trajectory of expansion into several other countries in the developing world, with the primary objective of ensuring water security through a process what we call as the analyze, convene, and transform. So on your left, you could see that there are three broad leadership areas that we think are critical to achieving this water security. And these are transforming value chains because, as Ashok sir just mentioned, bulk of the water that we are looking at goes into the agriculture sector in terms of the water usage. There is also a leadership that we are promoting in terms of wastewater reuse or circular economy that is about ensuring that the water that we are using is used sustainably. The last part of this is this important aspect of which National Water Mission is a key pillar, which is about climate change. So the need for building resilience at the community level is something that is critical when we are looking at a country like India, where vulnerability of its population is determined by the availability of rainfall and the availability of water in its agricultural operations. That said, the approach that we, as I just mentioned, that we are advocating is to look at the pillars of analyze, convene, and transform. So you could see, can we move to the next slide here? So the slide before that. Yeah, so this is just to give you a flavor of the kind of participants here. And when I said that this is a multi-stakeholder platform, this involves the private sector, this involves governments like Israel, the Swiss government, and the Hungarian government. It also involves multilateral institutions like World Bank, the African Development Bank, and the Inter-American Development Bank, and several of the thought leaders, including the international organizations. So this is a global architecture, but at the national and subnational levels where we work, we have the local participants and stakeholders who are the key to making such changes at the grassroots level. Can we move to the next one? I did mention the approach, so I'm not spending much time here. This is about analyzing the need for analysis, the need for convening, and the need for transformation. So if we work to move to the next level in terms of implementation, this is exactly what Ashokji just mentioned, that we need to step up our actions in terms of participation, in terms of bringing together different stakeholders, and then build on those actions to make a palpable change on the ground. So we believe that local specific context requires specific actions, and for that we would need to have key decision makers as part of the convening. And to move the needle to the next level, we would need to have that kind of stakeholder ownership. Not getting into the details of this number, but we have close to 900 partners from the private sector, civil society, and the governments globally. And we are being measured, or the activities that we promote are being measured in terms of hard numbers, which is about the quantity of water saved, the additional water that is saved, the abstraction that is avoided, the wastewater that has been reused. A lot of these parameters are more properly tracked and they are reported, so that we move close to the needle, we move close to the objective of water security at both the national and subnational levels. So in India, we work in these 4 states, which comprise almost 1/3 of the population and also 1/3 of the geographic region area of the country. And you also see that how the multi-stakeholder representation is in the different stakeholder committees for the platforms that we have in these 4 states. Madhya Pradesh is still, we are in the early stages of having a partnership with the state. So Umakantji is driving the leadership in terms of the government thought process and the actions in Madhya Pradesh. So we're working to support Umakantji's work in Madhya Pradesh and to create a multi-stakeholder initiative there in Madhya Pradesh. The process is, again, quite validated. So this comes through a proper DEA approval with an MOU that is signed with the Ministry of Water Resources or the Jal Shakti. And then at the state level, we do have the government orders that support the establishment or the existence of the MSPs. So on the far left, you can see the government order from UP, which mandates the priorities of the multi-stakeholder platform with the representation mentioned and the priorities of the multi-stakeholder platform in the state. So this is a proper structure that is in sync with the government processes and brings together the private sector and civil society to a table that is led by the government in all these states. Can we move to the next one, please? So a typical multi-stakeholder platform steering board would look like this. These are chaired by the chief secretaries of the respective states. The steering boards are chaired by the chief secretaries. And then under the chief secretary, you have a set of principal secretaries who would be the leaders in those domains, who would be the thematic leaders of those areas, together with the private sector and the civil society. So, and these priorities, the thematic priorities, are set by the state government in its analysis of what is important for the state in terms of water security. It could be industrial water use, it could be urban wastewater reuse, it could also be agriculture water. So in all the states where we work, agriculture water is a major area of concern for the state. So we do have the agriculture secretary, the water secretary, the water resources secretary, working together with a number of stakeholders from the public, so the private sector and the civil society. Civil society comprises of both the academic institutions of repute and also NGOs of repute, like the ones that we have here amongst us, including Parmarth, CARE, and a lot of these organizations at the state level. So a lot of these stakeholders bring together the collective wisdom to the government and provide them provide to the leadership of the government an initiative that can actually build on the knowledge, the collective wisdom of the stakeholders from different or various walks of the society. The task forces then help in actioning these ideas of the government and help fast-tracking implementation of the government projects, fast-tracking implementation of the multilateral aided projects, say, for example, the Atal Bhujal Yojana, or different projects that are implemented in a state. So not spending time here, this is also to look at water from both the demand and solution side, or demand or the supply side as well. So a lot of work that has been done on the supply side has been what Ashokji had mentioned in terms of the rainwater harvesting, in terms of wastewater, the water management aspects of what we are looking at. But also on the demand side, there are actions that are being initiated by the multi-stakeholder platforms, including supporting innovation for post-harvest value addition, for building institutions that can actually drive forward the demand-driven agriculture. And also on the industrial water, to reduce the water footprint of industries and make sure that the economic production or the economic incentives for industries to use water, to reuse water, is something that is built in. So that there are proper incentives for different sectors for efficient and logical water use. Again, not getting into the details here, this is just to show you how the different states are tackling water security from the multi-stakeholder platforms. And there are different thematic areas that are of importance for the state governments. The task forces, again, as I mentioned, are time-bound and are designed by the state government for taking up priority opportunities and getting them implemented. So you could see that in most of these cases, the thematic areas are determined by the state government in consultation with the stakeholders. And the 2030 Water Resource Group supports these MSPs as a secretariat and help implement solutions to achieve the water security goals. So in all these cases, you could see that agriculture water remains as the principal area of concern for the state government, where a lot of stakeholder action is happening. So in our effort with this effort that we are trying to design and work with the National Water Mission, we are trying to build on the capacities of the stakeholder committees and platforms that we have at the state level together to the table, the experience of the collective experience of the stakeholders and the collective wisdom of all these participants, so that innovation can be much more broad-based and the ownership is transferred from the implementation stage to the outcome stage as well. The last slide. Yeah, I think this is the last one. So this was just some thoughts for deliberation as we go forward. How do we use the collaborative capital that we are talking about here? So the stakeholders represent the collaborative capital for the state governments, including the private sector, civil society, the academic think tanks. They all represent the collaborative capital for the state government. How can the government leverage this capital and what can it do with that capital? So these are some thoughts for deliberation as we go forward as a group. This is not just the only instance where we are interacting. We will have several other opportunities as we go forward. So can we think about breaking barriers across the stakeholder groups? The stakeholder committees or the multi-stakeholder platforms have been very effective in breaking the silos when it comes to working with different government departments. So to work with the agriculture department, again, with the horticulture department, with the water resources department, under the chief secretary itself has been quite an achievement in several states. Second has been about the convening ability of the multi-stakeholder platforms. Can this be leveraged for bringing together technology providers and crowdsourced solutions? As Ashokji mentioned, that there were several initiatives that help the community or the public to also participate in these kind of initiatives. So can we think about crowdsourcing solutions that can be part of the campaigns as well? The third area that could also be looked at is about expanding the industry knowledge partnerships. We work in silos even in that area where the industry's innovations or the private businesses have their own innovations in terms of rainwater harvesting and water management. But can we actually create linkages between the knowledge partnerships that the academic sector can develop or the research sector can develop along with the industries so that the society can benefit? The two other points could be about broadening the stakeholder base. Can we think about more and more representatives in these kind of campaigns? Can we think about the real estate developers who have large areas for development and who can also integrate the kind of rainwater harvesting and the water management practices as a part of the gold standards in real estate development? Real estate regulators, water regulators in most of the states are also looking at opportunities to reach out to the communities and be part of that. So we could engage more of that. We do have good working relationships with the Maharashtra water regulator and also with the UP water regulator. So can we build on the collective wisdom of these institutions that can actually help the cause of the National Water Mission. And the last thing is about facilitating market participation. Can we think about more of local innovations and that can have important implications for the market? As Madhya Pradesh is an excellent example where the government itself is taking leadership in terms of promoting agriculture innovations. Can there be more of private sector ownership or participation in bringing these technologies to scale and taking some of these innovations at a national level? So I would park these thoughts with the panel here and the group that we have here. And all the best to the panelists and the group. As we go forward, we look forward to working with you and contributing to this collective goal. As we are approaching the March 22nd World Water Day, the important concern is about valuing water. And I'm sure that all of us out here really understand and appreciate the need for moving in that direction of valuing water. And valuing water is possible when we have the stakeholders with us today. I'll pause there. Thanks, Yuvraj. Thank you, Ashokji.
Thank you very much, Ajit. I think thank you very much for that overview. And as Ajit said, I think the whole initiative, the whole 3 webinar series is around how we can promote the value of water through a multi-stakeholder approach. Before we move on to the next item on the agenda, MD mentioned that we all want to move towards tanker Mukt Bharat, and Ajit in his presentation spoke about how collaboration between stakeholders and community is very important. Next is our keynote address from Mr. Umakantuma Rao, who apparently is the first person who was to a green patch which were across agriculture prosper, and we saw how to change the fate of an entire district. Over to you, sir.
I think two, three person have not muted their mic. I request them because a lot of sounds are coming. Request everybody.
Everyone who's on their phone, mute yourself, please. I can't put
Ms. Surbhi Singh, I think 3-4 person are there who have not muted their mic.
Yes, everyone on the phone device, please mute yourself kindly. We can't do it manually. We can only do it from people logged in from the laptop. So request to kindly mute yourself. Thanks.
Should I start?
Sure, sir.
Thank you. Sorry, I think. Thank you, Yuvraj, and thank you, Ajit. Thank you, Ashok, sir, Mission Director, National Water Mission, and the WRG 2030 teams for inviting me and letting me speak on my experience and my perspective on water problem and the solution. I would also like to thank you for another reason. I have been attending several meetings, functions, where the water has been the issue and the problem has been discussed, solution has been discussed. But there is one aspect which I would have always liked to be discussed is the value of water. I'm extremely happy that now WRG 2030 and Mission, National Water Mission has started a new series with an aspect with the topic value of water. Generally, I prefer to call it as water economics. For a simple reason, around 80 to 90% water in our country is being used solely, purely for profit. When profit comes into when it is an issue, profit is always related with the water economics, with economics. And when it is economic problem, it can be solved only through an economic model. Technology can support to reach a certain solution for certain requirements, but it is economic problem, purely economic problem. It is also, we need to understand what is community per se in our context. I think almost everybody spoke that 80 to 90% water is being used purely for irrigation. When it is used for irrigation, that means it is used for production and for productivity and profit. But let me also share that out of this 80-90% water which is being used in countryside for irrigation, this is being used only by 20 to 30% farmers who have bigger land holding, who have resources to invest in the tube wells. So that means when we talk about the water problem, actually there are 2-3 things which I think we need to understand. One, it is an economic problem. So it needs to be addressed as economic problem, and which can be addressed only when we have commensurate, a sustainable, acceptable model which is acceptable to the community. And when I say community, that means it is only 20 to 30% farmers who has been using around 80 to 90% water. There is another aspect I think we should also understand in our context, but in India context, which may not be true for most of the country in the world. We are the blessed country. In a year, around 36 to 37 crores hectare meter water we receive through rains. Let me repeat once again the figure. Around 36 to 37 crore hectare meter water we receive through rains. This is one aspect. Another aspect is our consumption level as on today. In spite all irrigation we have been able to develop, our consumption level in the country is hardly 15 to 17 crores hectare meter. That means we are blessed that we are getting more than what we have been using till now. The problem lies somewhere different. After independence, I think we presumed that source of water is a rivers. We presume that source of water are our rivers. So the model for our water solution which developed was to construct projects which are river-based projects. This I think we continued. We have been continuing this practice. Still we are looking rivers for our water problems. But let me also share one very rough estimate figure. Out of 100 liters which we receive through rains, if it is moved through these rivers and all that, and then canal system, out of 100 liters, only 10 to 15 liter reaches finally to that particular fields which we irrigate. So that means in this process, we lose around 80 to 90% rainwater, which is not a very efficient way of using any resource, any commodity, any natural resource, and particularly for a country like ours where we have a serious problem. So I think then 70s, another model came into picture, into practice, and that is which I prefer to call is tube well model, which is substantially dependent on the groundwater. So on 50s, we thought that rivers are our source of water. In 70s, we started thinking that groundwater is our source of water, which can solve our problems. But I think that was really a fallacy, which created more problems in the long run than the solution. It has solved to a certain extent our food problems, food security, several other things also. But I think this is the solution which is not sustainable. So I think we need to address and accept in the public domain anybody who is in the planning, who are the stakeholders, that these two sources are not the primary source of our problems. They are not sustainable source of problems, and the rainwater is our primarily solely source of water. Fortunately, we are so blessed that the rains which we get annually is substantially more than what is our requirement today, and which may be our requirement in coming future also in few decades. Rather, I will prefer to say in centuries also. So I think we need to realize everybody, whether it's a community, whether it's anybody who matters in decision making, that the rains should be in our papers, in our thought process, in our discourse, and in our decision making. One. Secondly, it is only 20 to 30% part of our community which is basically responsible for our 90% consumption. So any problem, so any solution which we are visualizing should focus only solely, if not solely, substantially on these 20 to 30% population which are consuming 80 to 90% water. And third, let us once again accept that we are in a materialistic world where profit is our decision making prime things. So the model which solves and addresses our greed, need for profit is going to be acceptable and is going to be sustainable. Let me, in this context, let me share my experiment in Devas. Devas was the first district where the water was brought by the train, way ahead than in Latur. I think this was done in some almost 20 years back. Now, this may be one of the few districts in the country which is almost water secured district, which gets almost less than average rainfall our country gets. It's around 1000 millimeter, while our country gets around 1100 millimeter, if I'm not wrong. And the model which was propagated among the community was very simple. Every farmer understands that the water they use is only for production, to increase their productivity, to increase their profit from agriculture. They were taught, they were made aware that the water which they get every year is more than sufficient to meet their need. But how to conserve it, how to store it so that their water need is satisfied on one aspect, and secondly, what they invest in this process of conserving water, storing water, is a viable business model, which I think worked. Today, more than 6,000 to 7,000 crores worth structures has been created by these poor farmers. Almost 3 lakhs hectare the land has been brought under irrigation. This is direct impact. The water table, which used to be around 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 feet in several villages, has almost come up to the level of 50, 20, 30, 50 feet. And this has been done only because they could understand the importance of economics involved around water. So let me once again repeat these few things. First, the problem, the model which we should look for should substantially focus on economic need of these consumers. This is one. Secondly, this model should be substantially addressed and should be acceptable to the community, which is mainly 20-30% of the community. Second, third, it should be a business model which should be economically viable and acceptable to the society. With these words, I will stop my speech. But before I conclude, let me invite all of you who are participants to visit at least once Devas, spend few days, not one day. This is not sufficient. Spend few days. I think the poor farmers are better teacher for us than we may think of, and hopefully that will show some way to address and scale up their thinking process. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, sir. I think you'll have a few takers on that offer to come to Devas very soon. And I think
Most welcome.
like you always do, very well summarize how water should be looked at as an economic good, as well as a social good. And I think in this overall webinar on promoting the value of water, this is a very important lesson that we'll carry through and also in our work. Thank you very much, sir. The next panel, in fact, the first panel is on smart water, rainwater management, and how this can be done through modern infrastructure and technologies and the innovative techniques. We have our moderator, Mr. Tejdeep Singh, who is a senior hydrologist with the Central Groundwater Board and is currently deputed with the National Water Mission. We also have a rich panel. So I will hand it over to you, Mr. Singh, now to please introduce the panelists and take the info.
Thank you, Yuvraj. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Today's workshop, today's webinar is a series, is the first webinar of the series of three webinars to be organized by the World Bank Group. And today's first panel is on the smart rainwater management, water management technologies and infrastructures. We have a panel of eminent panelists, namely Don Elof, Biplop Paul, and Rajiv Ahal. In fact, when we talk about rainwater harvesting and smart rainwater management implies the integration of system and the adoption of complex measures to monitor, control, regulate, and usage of quality of water resources. The primary objective of the smart water management is the reasonable and suitable usage of recycling of water resources. For this, first I will invite Mr. Don Elof, who is Council Agriculture Masaf with the Embassy of Israel. Mr. Don Elof, please.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. And I want to say it was fascinating to hear Mr. Asok G, to hear Ajit, which is together with Yuvraj, dear friends of mine. And it was very interesting to hear Omakant touching very true angles as far as my concept is touching water. So thank you for a very fascinating first opening panel. And thank you, Mr. Singh, for your introduction. So my name is Dan Aluf. I'm counselor at the Embassy of Israel, and I'm overseeing agriculture and water. I am leading Mashav, which is Israel's Agency for International Development Cooperation. So what I do here in India is having a privileged mission to share Israeli experience with India, and together as two partners to lead forward outcome that will benefit farmers first and foremost. So I am leading together with the Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India, and 23 states across India, the Indo-Israel Agricultural Project. We are actually building farms that are setting example of advanced agriculture embedded with novel technologies that come from Israel, but as important, they are tailored to the Indian conditions and to each geography within India. So this is in a title what I am leading and focusing on. When we talk on water, the activity on water today is strategic in our partnership. We are really looking how to take the knowledge, the experience, the technologies we have innovated in Israel, and to see what makes sense to implement in India. And we do it in both the federal level and in the state level, which I will describe shortly. Today's topic which is smart rainwater management technologies and infrastructure, is a very interesting aspect. So I will start my, I would say, the short lecture in talking a little bit about Israel, and from there moving to what we do together, Israel and India. So Israel currently is a world leader in water. It is a world leader because it has to be. Israel is a very semi-arid climate country. We do not have enough water. Unlike what Mr. Umakant was mentioning, Israel's rainfall is, if you count the natural resources, is about half of what we consume every year. So we must generate new alternative sources of water, in which rainwater from rain harvesting is one of them. So what we have in Israel is one lake, quite small. We have two main aquifers, which is actually accumulating the water underground, and they are natural aquifers. And in addition, we have the same amount of water which we generate from alternative sources. So we desalinate seawater, we recycle sewage water, and we also use brackish water, and them too we desalinate. So we have currently sufficient water in Israel thanks to generating new quantities of water. When we are looking at rainwater, one of the things that we are always aspiring to achieve is an ability to use this rainwater which comes naturally and to divert it with actually no energy, but using the topography to the right location. And this is a very important part. How do we identify the right location to store the water? So what we need is a comprehensive approach. And this is true for anything in water. So how do we actually identify the amount of water that we receive? How do we map the timing that it will come and the force the drops of rain will hit the ground? We need to understand not only the meteorology, the climate, we need also to understand the soil and the geology. We need to understand the human factor, as I said before, where do we want to bring the water? And then to look on this aspect and analyze, do we want to store the water in large reservoirs or in small reservoirs? Do we want it to be on the level, or do we want to percolate it underground? All of these questions should really come into place when we move into this aspect of harvesting rainwater. When we're talking about the topography, the geology, hydrology, and also the location of the farm, it is important to understand that if we do utilize a full, I call it the full value chain, we store the water, but then we percolate it underground, we actually save the transportation of water, and we eliminate the evapotranspiration. We save more water. So this is definitely a consideration. What we should understand, of course, if we actually have in this place a natural aquifer, and is there already an existing infrastructure to pump the groundwater and to monitor the level? Because I'm going again to the very interesting points Umakant was mentioning. It is important to see we do not exhaust the groundwater, because we can actually increase the salt within the aquifer and lose this as a water source for the future, for our children and grandchildren. So it's very important to monitor the quality of the aquifer. But if we do make this solution of pumping the accumulated water to the underground aquifers, we should be able to also pump it back to the field for the irrigation. So this is in a really trying to touch the principles of what we do. But at this stage, what I want is to bring you back to Israel after talking about this principle. in Israel, when we talk about water, and it's going back also to the point of ownership, when Israel was established together with India in 48, so we are almost the same age, one of the first decisions of Israel was that water is owned by the state. So even if you are living on top of an aquifer, even if you are living on a bank of a lake, you cannot pump on your own decision the water. You need the permission of the state. But the other side of the ownership of water by state is that the state is obliged to supply water to every user. So in this case, it's a very sustainable approach. And even if you live in the desert and you get zero amount of rain every year, you will get water to your house and to your field. So this created the first step. The second step was that Israel is using water as a resource. So if you use water, you pay for water. And this is the other part. The second part the state did, it gave the ability to the state, to one organization, Water Authority of Israel, to manage all aspects of water, from the planning to the implementation and the monitoring and renewing the policies. So the Water Authority is really a one-stop shop in regarding of water, and this is a very important and strong platform to execute any policy the government is instructing. And Jal Shakti definitely is taking the same principle in this regard. When we are moving on, we are talking about the innovations that came. And again, innovation came out of necessity because we had to find drip irrigation, which is the most water use efficient system. We had to find a way to actually do it. So it was invented in Israel, and since then it evaluated, and today it is a leading system across the world. And finally, the awareness, the ability of the consumers to be aware water is not just anything. It is a resource you need to value, you need to appreciate, and the cost is definitely a big step to make the users appreciate the resource, but it is also a cultural and educational thing that people should acknowledge the value of water. So going back, what we are doing in India is, again, talking and working together with Jal Shakti. We have a joint working group that is exchanging ideas, and hopefully it will also evolve into working groups. But one thing that I wanted to highlight, and with this I will finish, is our Bundelkhand water project that India and Israel is working towards. It is a project that aims to take an area within Bundelkhand, and here I must say that WRG has a very key role in making this happen, and hopefully we will work together and execute this project. And it is really about taking three segments. It's about generating water and water conservation, and rain harvesting will be a very important part to analyze in the area of Bundelkhand, which is an area with a deficit of water, but it receives 600 to 800 millimeters of rain every year. So we do have a water source which is very interesting. The second is to analyze how to store the water, and then how to transport it to the areas where we want the water to be used. And in the fields, how do we implement advanced agriculture, which is drip irrigation and the ability to implement precision irrigation by satellite images and more. But I am a big believer, maybe because I am also a farmer back in Israel, I'm a big believer that we have to carry sustainability, which means that our customers, the farmers, must see the return on investment. At the end of the day, these farmers must do good business. When they sell their product, they really should end and say, this investment in infrastructure and in drip irrigation and precision irrigation all resulted in better productivity, more productivity, even market linkage. So we will also address the full value chain of farming. And for us, it will be the comprehensive approach. Generating the water, transporting it, conserving it, using it efficiently, but also seeing the output which will carry the sustainability. So with this, I finish my words, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, Alok, for enlightening us with your vast experience in Israel. Israel, as we know, that is a water-starved country, and you people have done extremely good work in developing the water resources. By your deliberations, two things come to my mind. Those are, what are some leading technologies in regard to the smart rainwater management which are being used in Israel, and how that can be translated in India. And equally important is another part, how the cost of the technology and infrastructure can be brought down with regard to the implementation in the third world countries, in the developing countries rather.
Thank you. I will answer very quickly. I would say that in Israel, I would say before that, I am a big believer that we should prevent ourselves from working in a copy-paste approach. And you were addressing it in your second question, meaning Israel has a unique ecosystem, and the solutions that we generated there, we are sharing, but we must always tailor it to any new geography we are working into. So Israel, going back to Israel, we are experiencing mainly in the desert what we call flash floods. The desert has a silt soil, so even if you have a small quantity of rain, it could be 5 or 10 millimeter, a huge river will in a few seconds turn from completely dry to what we saw just a couple of weeks back in Uttarakhand when the glacier was collapsing. A huge movement of water. So the way to collect such a big amount of water is almost impossible. But we do have dams in which we catch part of the water and manage it. We have these dams that are moving the water later on to reservoirs, which are designed in a way that all the soil, the rocks, the stones, the vegetation will move into a different area and the clean water will move on. So it's about engineering the reservoir accordingly and then pumping it, filtering it in order to be able to use, at the end of the day, the best quality type of fresh water there is. When we are talking about the development and moving it to places where the small farm holders appear compared to farmers in Israel, which are usually managing big areas in terms of agriculture, you need to adapt. You need to do adaptation. I believe to some extent there should be an MSP, the multi-stakeholder platform is a great way to address it. There should be a place in which we work together. When we tackle the challenge of water and agriculture and things that at the end of the day you are looking at your tap or your small field, you need to look back and to see how we can work together. How all 25 villages will use one big reservoir. And there will be a team managing the reservoir from all aspects, how to pump water into it and how to pump water out of it. So I believe that working together is a secret. FPOs, together with government, together with WRG and other world organizations that can really lead new ideas. And of course, us as good friends of India, we are always at your service. Then I think working together is one of the approaches I would say, and not to downscale everything. There are things we should, and there are things we should insist to keep large scale, because large scale sometimes mean living and preserving the quality of things. So in this regard, finding the right balance and even trial and error. Try a few type of things and see what works best. So this is my reply, please.
Thank you very much for excellent deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker today is another eminent person, Mr. Biplab Paul, who is innovator and director, Bangru. He
I have
introduce
requested to you, Mr. Singh.
Yes, please.
It is possible before Biplab I will presenting.
See, actually, it is not in my command. Actually, it is from there only. Mr. Yuvraj is controlling all these things. So you can request Yuvraj. I don't have any problem.
Yeah. I hope Yuvraj also is speaking.
Yuvraj, do you listening?
Sanjay ji, actually you are in the next panel, so we request Anil to bring you on first. But this panel is on technologies and infrastructure.
Okay.
We'll make sure to call you on first in the second panel. Sorry about the interruption, Sanjay ji.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. So our next speaker is Mr. Mr. Biplab Pal. He introduced the participatory irrigation system based on the rainwater harvesting, which is very interesting subject because since I am also a hydrogeologist and working in this area for the last 34 years, so I want to listen from you, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Singh sir. First of all, I'm really grateful to WRG 2030 for giving this invitation. And the tone was perfectly said by Honorable Ashkumar sir, and then Umakant sir and Ajit sir was superb. And then I'm really happy. We are also working with the Israeli team in Africa. I will explain that thing separately with you. And there also, we are creating the Israeli model with a Bundu technology partnership. That is separately we discussed. Now come straight to the point. Since our time is short, I won't take more than 4 minutes. So my name is Biplab. I'm a Bengali working in Gujarat. So you can say Bongo Guju, Bengali Guju combination. And that is really grateful to Ahal sir, my next speaker, because when we were nothing, he helped us hold our hand and to go in the whole world. That he was his support. So I cannot forget that thing in my whole life. I'm really grateful to Ahal sir past. So my organization or our organization name is Naidita Services. We are working with an innovation called Bhungru, BHUNGROO. You can Google it, you can get all the details. I'm not sharing that part over here because it's more like a panel discussion. I will come straight to the point of today's topic. What is the community ownership and technology acceptance and technology propagation? So we did Bhungru on the idea of 3 principles. One is the ASR, Aquifer Storage and Recovery Model. Second was the MARR, Managed Aquifer Recharge and Recovery Model. And third is the VD, Vertical Drainage. These 3 principles, we try to define our rainwater management solution at different agricultural zones of India based upon these 3 principles. Currently in 12 states outside India, in Southeast Asia and Africa as well. So when we try to do that thing, we are grateful to IIT Kanpur and now Harvard as well as Stanford and even INSEAD. When they saw the result, they came forward and gave the technology, and we are able to get more and more support from Central Groundwater Board. R.C. Jain sir, who was the chairman, he helped us a lot, mentored us, corrected our mistakes, and we are trying to deliver the solution at the field for the farmer, especially for the smallholder farmer who land waterlogged during monsoon, but who doesn't have any water during summer and winter. So the problem is very critical. I'm coming to Umakant sir's point about the money or the economy of it. If my land is waterlogged during monsoon, I lose my monsoon crop. If I'm a smallholder, if I lose my monsoon crop, I lose my food for the whole year. I lose my grass for my animals. So I have to sell off my animal. So one season's waterlogging in monsoon push you down below the poverty line. That is point number 1. And point number 2, in summer and winter, if I need to go for irrigation, I have to get water from other sources, either from borewell or from other sources, where canal water. Somebody is talking.
Can we please request everyone to mute themselves, please? Thank you.
Can I continue? Okay.
Sure, sir.
So the point is that in summer and winter you don't have any water, and if I'm a smallholder within 2 acres, 1 hectare of land, and within 2 acres of land, I cannot buy irrigation water, which is 450 rupees per hour, which is very, very expensive. Then I can explain you in dollar later on, approximately $5 per hour. So the solution, we try to find this excess water in monsoon. Why cannot you use that excess water in the dry period? So the flood water or waterlogging in monsoon can defeat the scarcity or drought of the summer and winter. This is the basic principle we started. We started on principle, as I told you, ASR. There are different designs, Ahal sir, and we can discuss later on in all those things. But basically, our principle is these three principles you have to walk. If there is a disturbed aquifer underground, which is not usable, it can be contaminated, it can be saline, it can be polluted, then just walk for the ASR. So you get the rainwater filtered and let it float upon the subsoil non-usable water. If there is different soil formation and there is a cavity, what Dan was telling, and there is a storage opportunity for the rainwater, which is not disturbing any other usable water at different particle, then just go identify that location and store it and let the people pump it out when there is a dry period. That is the MARR. And VD, we are working in Bangladesh and now in Vietnam and Indonesia. When there is a sudden heavy water, you cannot take it away from the flood-like situation. Go vertical down, identify the places where the water can be pushed down, non-usable, and can be made forward. This is very difficult. We are getting support from the PKSF, Bangladesh government, for doing that thing. So this is the three principles. But I am not talking the principle alone over here. Our whole technology is based upon the principle of the Omen. So whole technology we worked on the gender model, where we are creating youth climate leader and Omen climate leader. We are enabling them to learn the technology, nitty-gritty of it, divide in smaller modules so that they can do it and they can apply it on the ground and they can bring the data, analyze it, give the solution. They then be a business plan-based development approach. Earlier we did not do it. Earlier everything was done by us. We found it is becoming cost ineffective as well as time consuming. So we divided the whole program into smaller module, community participatory way, Omen driven, youth driven, and at the farm gate. Started with one intervention, we are able to create multiple co-creative solutions. Now, what's the next part? Next part is one step ahead. We have now partnered with the universities and engineering colleges and the first generation engineering students who are coming from the rural areas. We are enabling them to learn the technology and be the service provider at local level and earn at least 20,000 rupees per month as an entrepreneur on water. And that's youth climate leader, youth water entrepreneur is the next step. Thank you. I'm stopping here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bangu, Mr. Paul. Thanks for
Mr. Paul, it's very Shokumar here. I'm really interested in what you have done. Very, very innovative way of water entrepreneurs are great because unless we link up some livelihood with this thing, it will not sustain. So nice, good thing you have done. Very happy, but probably we can have a more detailed discussion on this. Thank you later on. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Sir, can I take 1 minute?
Please go ahead.
This technology is awarded by the World Bank Development Marketplace. Now it is the United Nations Climate Change Awardee Best Technology. It is also awarded by the Department of Science and Technology as the Gold Medalist Technology. And this is now part of the Gender Just Climate Solution across the UN. So that is the way we are going ahead. Your next question, our Prime Minister invited us for a technology mission discussion, and there we created the model of doubling of agriculture income through the youth and women employment creation in a business plan development model where water is the core. And that is the success model, Ashok Kumar sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Two things come to my mind. One is that you think your technology is working working on the aspect of cost effectiveness. And second thing, given your vast experience on groundwater management, what are your thoughts of widening your scope for the surface water management also?
Can I answer, sir?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, initially we failed on the economics part of it. Ahal sir taught us that Biplab, you have to create a model which is divisible, which can be divisible smaller thing. Not everything you have to do. You have to find the local level entrepreneurs and create a model where they can chip in, they can earn, and the cost can be reduced dramatically. So that is the thing we have done. Earlier our cost of operation was 90 days and it was very expensive. Now we are doing in 1 day 9 units. So the cost of operation has dramatically changed and it has been reduced dramatically. It is very, very effective. And we have also created a local level community ownership model. 1 unit is not by one individual farmer. We have created a group of women farmers, 5 to 10, they jointly own it. That's why we got the USAID Securing Water for Food award across the globe. That is part one. So in answering the costing down or downing the cost, we have done dramatically. Part number two, surface water. Yes, sir. We were not very confident because we are coming from a grassroots. 30 years in the field in the Gujarat, from there to all over India and all over the world. We found it is the irrigation water where the pumping from the underground is the biggest challenge. So we first targeted the underground aquifer. And then we found this underground aquifer handling can be done with the surface water, both waterlogging as well as salinity. So now we are creating a model of salinity prevention. We are also creating a model of contamination reduction. We got support from Stony Brook University in New York. We also got a support from I forgot the name, East Lansing, I forgot the place name. East Lansing is the campus. From there, they're supporting us to identify what are the different ways surface water can work as an in situ contamination reduction for the subsurface water. That is the model you are also working. So yes, we'll be needing your support. We got a CGWB big support and Geological Survey of India. Our Mitra sir was there. He was very supportive. So that's why we are still doing baby step. We are not experts, sir. We are still trying, sir. But we will be confident to deliver it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Biplab. Thank you very much. To continue the deliberations, our third speaker today is Mr. Rajiv Ahal, who is Director with the National Resource Management GIZ. He has a vast experience and he will share his experience with us now. Mr. Rajiv, sir.
Thank you, Tejit, sir. While the PowerPoint, which I will use to guide my presentation, is being loaded, I would take this moment to compliment Ashok Kumar, sir, and the dynamic team at NWM, the active team WRG 2030, with whom we are also collaborating, and of course, and share with you some of our experiences, and my deep respects to the panelists who have spoken before me. And I would look forward to also connecting with you after this. We would like to, yeah.
I will project my screen. Please feel free to cue me. I have your presentation on. This is Pia.
Yeah, Pia, thanks a lot. Yeah, I can see the first slide. So basically, I'm sharing the experiences gleaned so far in about 1.5 years, almost 2 years of a bilateral project on water security and climate adaptation in rural India. As a technical cooperation partner, we work closely with Ministry of Rural Development for the rural angle, the development part of it with Ministry of Jal Shakti, NWM, for the climate part. And this is being implemented all over India. Can I, next slide, please? Yeah. So when we are looking at the aspect of securing water with a layer of climate projection, with the sort of knowledge and data that we have about climate in the future, what do we practically do on the ground? And this project is actually a cooperation and collaboration to figure that out, which is the true nature of a bilateral technical support project. So the objective, of course, is to make sure, as has also been spoken by Umakantji, that how do we look at integrated use of water and make sure that the whole, what we call the value chain as well, and also Dan, is connected and used properly. So here the aspects that we are working on is to build up from below, from panchayat level, almost up to the district or sub-basin level, a composite picture of water demand and supply. Now, the experiences of Indo-German cooperation over the last 35, 40 years on watersheds have taught us one thing. You can do one watershed, especially at a micro and mini watershed level, very, very well, and really bring good water efficiencies and management practices in play. But unless you start looking water as an hydrological flow and look at the composite nature or the scale of that water, whatever we do at a small level can be easily undone. And we have very good examples. There are wonderful watershed work done over the last 20 years, but all the watersheds upstream and downstream don't do it. And in the end, even the surface runoff is paltry. So the idea here is to go to the level of a sub-basin sub-catchment and bring all the planning, the demands from below, and the supply orientation availability at a catchment level together. So how we do this is that we have developed an approach called Composite Water Resource Management. And the idea is to work in 5 states. What is interesting is these states, in a sense, all the way from the arid areas of Uttar Pradesh to, of Rajasthan, to the Gangetic plains of Uttar Pradesh, to the river origination aspects of Madhya Pradesh, river valley-based agriculture, the Deccan Trap in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, and the coastal influences in Tamil Nadu. So trying to look at hydrological climate variations and typologies all over the country as we try to experiment and prove what could work well. These are some of the 5 of the biggest states with about 37% of the area and almost 40% of the population. Next slide. Now, I don't want to go into this detail, and this presentation would be available to participants, I hope, and they can get back to us. But basically what we are trying to do is to see how we bring the principles of 4 waters. So look at not just the surface water, but also look at the soil moisture, look at the confined, look at confined aquifers. To a large extent, see what the water budgeting interplays are, and also then try to use technology to make this analysis easier at a grassroots level and at another level, and then the level of the sub-basin. So here, the technology driver that is being used is not new. It's a very old GIS-based technology. It is not even dynamic GIS. It's totally public source use of static images and critical layers that are used for analysis. This also brings in the non-spatial data that is available, including the meteorological, temperature, and all data. And this helps at the lowermost level for people to identify the problems and solutions, what could be done, what are the interventions, where to site the structures, how to geotag those sites so that they can be implemented. Also come up to some level of estimation of cost. And then all of this builds up and is aggregated, of course, spatially using GIS at a block and at a district level and then at a state level. And then, of course, one part is planning. But how do you do this with the government departments, with the various institutions? So we work very closely with various ministries and state governments and units at every level. One lesson has been that the beautiful dream of convergence, even if it happens 20-25%, there could be magic. And water, which sometimes transcends something like 15 to 22 departments in different states, cannot be addressed by just working with 1 or 2 departments. So the multi-stakeholder platform at a planning level, at the level of approval of those plans, where different departments come in with their allocations within the government system, and then the implementation capacities to implement various aspects of it, not in isolation, but in togetherness over a few years. These are the areas that we have been working on also, because GIZ is also capacity building organization in its, in its approach of using this to scale up. Next slide, please. Now, what we realize is to make it easier, it would be useful to find typologies, because then, as to a large extent, a templating approach can be followed in a generic sense, and then in the very specific context of that typology being slightly different from another, same typology in two areas being slightly different, specific details could be picked up. So if you were to see the 10 districts where this VASCA project works with the state governments, already there are 9 different typologies that have come out. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, thanks. So I'm giving an example of one, which is from Shimoga district in Karnataka. One slide back, please. Yeah. So now Shimoga is a very interesting district, which has a Western Ghat at the top part. It has the elements running down to the river basin system. High level of rainfall, but extreme drought and shortage of water in summers. So when we did this comprehensive planning in all aspects using GIS and spatial imagery, working with panchayats, blocks, and districts, you can see that different prescriptions of interventions have come at different levels of the watershed and its development. And almost 27,000 water-related works, which are really, and we have got identified. And the important thing is, they relate to each other. So just making a soil conservation or a water conservation structure, but not having an irrigation system or command area in place does not make sense. So how to try and relate some of these elements in sequencing, in design, in implementation, this is what is being has been attempted and has come out very strongly here. And next slide, please. Now, we've been discussing it today quite effectively, that if we really want to look at a smart use of water, on one side, we have to work on the water harvesting part, make sure, as what Ashokji, you said, catch every drop and use it effectively. And then there's a whole aspect of how to make the water use more efficient as well. So what we did is that we also identified within the departments, the key departments with a role on the water harvesting side and the ones water use efficiency side. And of course, these mix up around a bit. But here then one knows who will take a lead role where and do what. And based on this sort of a joint working, and mind you, it just takes about 6 months from start to finish to come up with a plan at a district level or a sub-basin level. And why a district level? Because this whole convergence of departments to really fit themselves into this complex problem that we're all talking about, all the way from the Prime Minister to Ashokji to all of us, is for them to be really able to converge. And we find that the district collector's office at the district level is the most efficient mechanism for being able to mainstream these approaches, to bring some element of convergence, and to monitor convergent implementation as well. So that is the other element of the approach that we're using. Next slide, please. What we are very happy is that while working in these states, there are also other things that are happening. So we have a very good and close cooperation with WRG 2030 Group, where we are taking the CHWRM framework and working in the Bundelkhand project with them in districts in Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh in almost 200 villages. So here is a good example of partners already sharing practices, approaches, and working closely with each other. We also, if you see this box below, we also believe, as has been pointed out, that unless the entire water supply and water use in agriculture is not looked at differently by the main procurers of agricultural commodities, we'll continue to promote water-intensive crop development. So we are working very closely with very large international purchasing companies like Mars in Gujarat and UP, BioRe in Madhya Pradesh, and working with them in their value chains as part of their business economics to make the value chain A, more water efficient, B, climate resilient. And in the end, it's the victory is both for the farmers and the buying companies. The third part, of course, is that we've also been worked with government of Rajasthan more closely, where based on these guidelines and approaches that we developed, this government has now given out detailed guidelines for 6.5 lakh hectares of ravine land reclamation in Chambal Basin over 8 districts. So such approaches are now being applied in other places as well. And we are, of course, working very closely with NABARD in its own mandate of agriculture development, rural development, and see how sustainable agriculture and aquaculture could also utilize these GIS-based approaches. Next slide, please. Maybe just to share quickly where we are and where we are going. The CWRM approach in terms of a methodology has been tested, as I said, in the 10 districts. This approach and another one, because I think it's very important that, you know, we all focus a lot on the beauty of planning, right? But what happens after you plan? What happens to the big dossiers and documents and demands that are created? So one is, of course, to leverage and work into the various funds like Mahatma Gandhi Narega, PMKSY, and the state funds, but also look at other possibilities. So we work with IGMI, and we brought out another knowledge product on funding for different aspects of water management. So all the way from grey water, water conservation, which programs, schemes of the government at various levels could be accessed and looked at. We've also helped establish CWRM resource centers as basically as hubs. Is more like a backbone around which the GIS-based planning happens within the government system. So here it's a very simple computer with skills trained to the practitioners who are coming from various departments. And this is where all the panchayat people come when they're not able to access their information, remote sensing imagery. So basically it's all free, it's all coming from Bhuvan, it's all in the public domain. We've also worked a lot in now helping develop cadres of experts. So almost about 100 experts in these 5 states are now working full-time to support these plans through government programs. Almost 5,000 technical cadre of various departments in these 5 states have now been trained. And mind you, all of this has been happening in COVID times. So while we were on a lockdown, the real world lived on and had to struggle. So we found ways of using virtual means and connecting with our partners to make this happen. As we speak, almost 5,400 panchayats have already completed their plans and have given them to the district and state governments for approval. About 0.7 million water-related works have been identified. About 500 million euros worth of funding is being leveraged by these plans using government funds from various programs and schemes. And this is now going beyond just the 5 states and the 2 districts in each, where now the Ministry of Rural Development has asked us to help the states of Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Chhattisgarh to take up this planning in all the panchayats in their states. If you look at the numbers, which always for India are important, because we can do beautiful things in 5 villages, but what do we really do when we look at such a scale of problem, especially for water, which is interconnected? What it means is that there'll be almost like 125,000 panchayats, if all goes well, who would have completed some level of basic TWRM planning by next year. And mind you, this is half the panchayats of the country. So I think using technology to scale is something we've been really working on, making it simple, making it approachable. And in this direction, one last thing that I'd like to share is a digital tool we call e-water, which is basically something we're developing to help put all the spatial and the API data from various sources, look at various typologies, and create decision support designs and offer them to the administration at district level for them then to be able to work closely and fine-tune it. So making it a bit more simpler, the initial part of it, and then moving to the next stage. Next slide. And
I think Rajiv ji, please.
I'm done. Yeah.
Brief. We're running short of time.
Yeah. So exactly that's what I wanted to say. That thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I can take them up
Yeah,
later.
sure. Rajesh, it is by your deliberations. Thank you for your deliberations. By this, one thing comes to our mind that what are the best suited emerging technologies to catch the rain in the countries in which the GIZ is currently engaged. And second is that what do you think is the value of multi-stakeholder approach for sustainable water management? And how do you think the rainwater harvesting and sustainable water management can be implemented through convergence models? Please throw light on this.
Thank you for those questions. So GIZ is right now working in about 118 countries, and especially the experiences from the South-South context, especially from Africa and Southeast Asia, are very relevant. So we've been learning from them, and I think Israel is another partner we need to learn more from. But I must say one thing. I would say that while there is always a need to innovate and bring technology, I think a lot of what technologically needs to be done at a local level is known. It's just a matter of building on top of it. So I think what I would really see in this multi-stakeholder platform, and going to your next point, would be that as part of our private sector perspective and orientation, can we get some smart startups, agripreneurs to also get involved and start providing their services when it comes to this level of district and local level, not just that it happens at a national. So I think this could be one new or important dimension which we would be very happy to be participating in and to contribute to. Thank you very much. Of course, I mean, as you saw, Biplab did share that wherever we find a good innovation which needs to be supported, we've been trying to do it as part of our work. Back to you, Ji. Sure.
Thank you very much, Rajiv ji. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much, Biplab ji. Now it's back to Yuvraj, please.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thank you, Biplab ji. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Rajiv, for that great presentation. I think the way forward is for all of us to collaborate and see how we can best use such technologies and such approaches and customize them to the setting. The next panel is on how we can manage the rainwater through a community and participatory approach, because no matter what technology we use, unless it is adopted and maintained by the community, it is only so useful. And to moderate that panel, we have Mr. Anil Sinha, who is a former head of the advisory group of IFC World Bank, is currently senior strategic advisor to 2030 Water Resources Group, and has decades of experience in the development sector. I would request Mr. Sinha to please take this ahead and moderate.
Thank you, Yuvraj. And firstly, compliments to the National Water Mission for organizing these series of 3 webinars. I think it's clear already from the first panel, lots of rich discussions have happened, and I think it will be a good part of the knowledge exchange and knowledge dissemination that the National Water Mission is engaged in, and we're very happy as 2030 Water Resources Group, of course, to support in this effort. I will make my introductions very short because I know that Mr. Sanjay Singh has to go. I'll come back with a more detailed context setting after he's spoken. But just a few lines to say that clearly, if there has to be sustainable water management, it cannot happen without the effective participation of the community. The whole rationale for 2030 WRG, why we were set up by the World Economic Forum, was with this rationale. Unless you have government, civil society, academia, as well as private sector working together cohesively for collective action, you will not get the best efforts to accelerate. And above all, if you don't have the community, you will not have sustainable development. So this session is about different examples and different models of community participation, starting with the Jal Saheli model by Parmat, and Mr. Sanjay Singh is here, who's been working for decades on this model. His model of Jal Saheli using gender-based community participation models has been accepted and has been touted as a success story. I would like him to talk about that model. We also have international examples of ICRISAT using their technology combined with alliances, how this could happen. And the third speaker from CARE will speak again about grassroots working through their different model. And it's good to see how different models work together, what works, what doesn't work, what could be done better. So I'll stop my context setting here by requesting Mr. Sanjay Singh of Parmath, whom we are working very closely with in UP in Bundelkhand on a project called Pragati, which is basically a local water body management combined with livelihood creation program. GIZ is part of that, and Rajiv mentioned that also. So you can combine water harvesting with economic value and livelihoods creation. An example of that is Pragati, and we're doing it at different districts, and it has to be done at the district level. But handing over to Sanjayji and Parmath, please talk about what are you doing, how is Jal Saheli successful, and how did you set this up, and what are your lessons of experience that you want to share? Sanjay. Pia, can you see him?
Yes, I can see him. Perhaps he. Just 1 second.
I just called him.
I think he has just dropped off.
He's reconnecting his net. There's some problem with his network.
Okay, he was just here. Yeah.
Hello.
So before Sanjay joins, I just want to mention that the Honorable Prime Minister has been speaking about community participation in water several times. His directions are very clear. So this topic relates to clear directions from the UN themselves. Sanjay ji.
Hello, Sanjay ji perhaps has disconnected. So I'm Shivani, working for Parmath. I will try to explain through this presentation. So could you please share the presentation?
Sure, Miss Singh. Please feel free to cue me. I will.
Okay. Okay, fine. So I will just explain a bit about Parmath. Parmath is our NGO working in water issues since last 25 years in Bundelkhand regions of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, and we are working in more than 10 districts in these two states, and our direct approach in 300 villages, and we are reaching it's a old slide, we are actually reaching almost 5 lakh persons directly and indirectly to almost 15 lakhs people. So we are working on a kind of model that is sustainable and a community-based model. Our key intervention areas are integrated water resource management, agriculture and livelihood promotion, safe drinking water, sanitation and hygiene, natural resource management, women empowerment, health and nutrition promotion. Some of the successful models, because we are here discussing some of the models that has been quite successful, are one is village water security plan, rejuvenation of water bodies, Jal Sahelis and Pani Panchayat, and revival of water bodies. I think presentation is not coming in that way, so I will have to explain extempore actually. Through Project Pragati, we are working on participatory rural agriculture advancement through tank-based drip irrigation. Actually, Parmarth is working on both sides, demand side as well as supply side both. So because as you know, Bundelkhand is a water stress region, and the only way we can have water is through water storage. Earlier, Chandel, Kalin and Bundela tanks had been constructed for this storage, but later on, due to lack of proper maintenance, they have almost dried up, and people are facing water scarcity here. So what we are doing is actually our model is community model and Jal Saheli model. Because in Bundelkhand, the basic problem those the women are facing, they have to collect water and they have to walk a long distance for this collection of water. So Parmarth has started to work with the women to help them to understand the basics of water conservation, water management, and efficient use of water. And they are named as Jal Sahelis or Women Water Friends. Through various kind of trainings and capacity building programs, now they are the front runners and leaders and taking care of water conservation and efficient water use as well. So through this, this is a local cadre that we have built, and these the local champions. We have also formed water user group called Pani Panchayats. And the Jal Sahelis lead this Pani Panchayat. They have learned about water budgeting. We have already discussed and have heard about how water budgeting can help us in water conservation and efficient water use. So they prepare their village level water budgeting and prepare a water user plan. These are the front runners that help them to understand how much water is available in their village and how much water they would need for irrigation, for drinking, and for other purposes, and what should be done to meet this demand and supply gap, and whose responsibility will be of implementation of whatever the action plan is prepared. After preparing this action plan, they present this, they submit and present this action plan in Gram Sabha meetings and through in their village panchayat as well for its adoption, and try to get budget, resources, and people resources, including all kind of resources, human power resources and community resources and money resources as well to implement this water user master plan. Through this kind of activity, they have, in fact, they have made at least more than 100 villages as water sufficient villages. In fact, their stories, their success stories had been recognized by national and international media as well. In fact, far off villages where the water scarcity is at their extreme level, they have emerged as champions who can provide us a way where where we can see a sustainable model of water harvesting as well. Also, they have learned that rainwater should be harvested as well. So what they are doing is they're preparing soak pits. They are recycling the water in their kitchen gardens as well, and also are inspiring others and promoting this use of rainwater as well, and also participation in digging, silt reduction in their ponds and wells as well. And all through it's a kind of an integrated approach of water conservation they are using.
Shivani, can you you complete, so I will add in about the presentation.
You can please add on. So I've just given a background of how Parmarth is working on water conservation issue and ultimately helping in saving raindrops and also in efficient use of water. So Sanjay ji, you can also add.
Yeah, thank you, Shivani. First of all, in sincerely apology because of network issue. So I'm in disconnect. Basically, in all the presentation, first of all, I have been give a very thanks for in WRG, very good topic in today as per organization, as per in this program subject, catching rain. Very touchy and very important name of this webinar. So because of this is the need of in right now in country. I have been presenting about the in Bundelkhand Pragati project. Shibani is mentioning in Parmarth is working in especially in Bundelkhand region in UP and MP in both areas and also in some part of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. So we have been discuss about the in Pragati project in support of WRG in Jhansi district in Uttar Pradesh. Right now in working in two villages. One block is Manpur, second block is Chamraua. So we have start in last 1 year a lot of initiative. I have give a example. Community has a very well prepared in water security plan in this village, and also in convergence with Manrega and other government schemes. Community have taken a lot of initiative like a seed bank and also in community nutrition garden, and very important things the community use of. They have been 100 people in one block in Manpur. They apply to drip irrigations in support with horticulture departments. They will start the initiatives and they will change the crop pattern. They also uses of water use efficiencies. So basically reducing the area of wheat. They will shift it in pulses, and also water literacy is more important things in these villages, and both are the villages in support of Pragati project. We have in continuous giving lot of efforts for in water literacy like a Jal Panchayat, Pani Panchayat regular meeting, and also the Gram Sabha, and we have in prepared in curriculum in very small curriculum in IEC material about the uses of water use efficiency. The community have been taken the knowledge of water budgeting. So in also this activity is the major champion of the women. So especially in women farmer in two villages because of time is a constant. So but in both are the villages as a right now in Jhansi district as a create a model village. So this is the in Parmarth initiative support within WRG, and this is my efforts will be in 2021 we will completed the in this village as a Manrega plan. In every village, in every household have a link with water use efficiency, also in drinking water year-long sustainability. This is type of efforts. So we have in both are the village have a very large pond in water bodies. Right now in Bundelkhand this year is a very poor monsoon, but both are the villages good water for in ponds and also in efforts of community continuous efforts in organizing in Srindan Sever and in plantation. Lot of initiatives we will in right now in presenting Sibani also. So this is my very some important aspect about the Parmarth intervention in project Pragati.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Sanjay ji, this Jal Saheli model, which involves women and this what is called a gender-based model, can you tell us how you organized women groups and what do you think the advantages of that are versus other kinds of organizations that you've set up? Why does this model succeed and how did you set this up?
Yeah, sir, thank you, sir. Very good questions. First of all, in Jal Saheli model in start in 2011 in Bundelkhand, this year is a drought year. Right now, this model has a near about in 346 village, near about in 1,000 Jal Saheli cadre working in Bundelkhand. In support of Jal Saheli, right now, 107 village have a water sufficient village. So Jal Saheli as a working as a catalyst without any fund, without any kind of honorarium, salaries, and per diem. They have been taking the own responsibility. So Jal Saheli working with convergence with government, and also they have create the awareness of Pani through Pani Panchayat. So Jal Saheli in regular doing the regular efforts for in water sufficient village, sir. This is a very unique model.
It is indeed, and compliments जो आप कर रहे हैं, इस स्केल पे आप पहुंच गए हैं. हम चाहेंगे कि आप और भी स्केल बढ़ाएं. इसका मॉडल तो आपने लिखा ही है, इसको हम डिसेमिनेट करें. नेशनल वाटर मिशन के द्वारा भी ये डिसेमिनेट हो सकता है कि जेंडर बेस्ड कम्युनिटी पार्टिसिपेशन की इफेक्टिवनेस को क्लियरली रिकॉग्नाइज किया जाए. थैंक यू संजय जी. वी विल नाउ मूव टू Sorry, I was just saying that we will now move to international organization ICRISAT. They have their own consortia or model, which they call the Parasai model. It involves water harvesting, but with the intent of livelihood creation. And this theme that Mr. Umakant mentioned, the value of water. Water not only for water's sake, but it can add to the income of the family. It can add to the income of the smallholder farmer. Is an important value chain contribution. So ICRISAT, please, I would request Mr. Srinath Dixit, Principal Scientist and Head ICRISAT, to please make his presentation and tell us about their model. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anil. Very good afternoon, good evening to you all. Can we keep moving the slides, please? Yes, this is a very unique effort being done by ICRISAT, where we have really brought in a lot of science and science-based technologies to manage the soils as well as water. It's not just the water, because it's the soil which actually stores the water and then preserves it for not just for crop production, for all other uses in future, because we depend very heavily on groundwater. And this is again connected. How can, in this kind of fragile ecosystems, one can realize the dream of doubling farmers' income, and also in the backdrop of the climate change, which is affecting this kind of semi-arid areas in a very strong way. So we would like to share these experiences. Can we have the next one, please? Yeah, look at the analysis that we have done. The data shows this is about the 23 rain gauge stations across Bundelkhand region of UP. We have analyzed the data since 1950, and over these 60-70 years, we find that the rainfall has been steadily declining, and which is in fact an evidence of climate change. So the rainfall, the average rainfall that used to be around 1,000 about 1950s has come down to less than 800 millimeters in the recent years. So it has not only reduced, the quantity of rainfall has not only reduced, even the pattern of rainfall has seen a drastic change in terms of inception of monsoon and the intermittent droughts during the crop period and cessation of monsoon. In a way, there has been a reduction in the crop growing time, and with a lot of variability in terms of either high rainfall events or two long spells of drought in between two productive rainfall events. So this has actually put a lot of pressure on the crop production. And as a result, the suggestions that were given by earlier speakers, like how do we best capture the water and make it available during the drier periods, holds the key to the efforts here. Next one, please. Yes, and when we looked at the landscape of the entire Bundelkhand, thanks to the traditional systems of rainwater harvesting here, these are called Havelis. And when we looked at these Havelis, most of the villages had at least one or two Havelis, which were catering to not only the agriculture water needs and also enriching the groundwater levels there. But the Havelis were in pretty bad shape because these Havelis are traditionally the rainwater harvesting structures which were managed by the communities earlier. But after the independence, the post-independence era has seen a lot of apathy and neglect and disrespect to this entire system of traditional water harvesting system of Havelis. And as a result, we observed a lot of dilapidation, destruction of the Havelis walls, and they were no good to store the rainwater and serve the purpose for which they were practiced for nearly 400-500 years. So it is said that these Havelis were part of the rainwater harvesting system, and this was actually practiced in the Malwa region in the neighboring state, and gradually this was adopted across the Bundelkhand region. So what we did to these Havelis is that how did we renovate these Havelis? And we brought in a lot of new technology in terms of strengthening the core wall, boundary wall of these Havelis, and deepening and widening of the drainage network that brings in water to these Havelis, and also expanding the rainwater harvesting to the community ponds and farm ponds, and building check dams wherever we observed that the rainfall would cause too much of damage or cause flash floods and draw a lot of soil also along with it, and brought in the diversion drains to let the fields not getting inundated so that kharif cropping is also possible. And large amount of field bunding was done. More than 5,000 acres of field bunding has been done, and field drainage structure was improved. And we also went in for improving the irrigation efficiency by adopting land laser leveling. Next one, please. So, and after this was done, this rainwater harvesting must always be connected to the economy, like the vice speakers have already dealt with it. So unless this is connected to the livelihoods and then people start deriving the benefit of these improved moisture availability and harness this for producing more crop per drop of water, we will not be able to get the community participation in the movement of harvesting or catching the rain. So we started working with the farmers, laying more than 10,000 field demonstrations, something like more than close to 1,500 demonstrations in every season, and this is being done for the past 7-8 seasons continuously. And we can see there is a very good appreciation by the farmers for the improved yields, and we also facilitated the farmers for getting good varieties, high-yielding varieties of the crops they were growing, and were fortified with good soil analysis and advising them on application of nutrients and micronutrients, and apart from that, pest and disease control. So there was a continuous good agricultural practices support was given to these farms in order to make use of the moisture available. Next one, please. So just to give an example of how does this water harvested can translate in monetary terms. So I'm just taking one example in Birdha village in Lalitpur district, where you can see the picture which was taken, satellite picture taken in February 2019. And during this time, only 4 acres were cultivated in the Rabi season. And look at the same picture in February 2020 after the construction of several water harvesting structures as well as renovation of the water bodies like Havelis, for which an investment of nearly $33,500 was made. And you would see that this was also recovered in the very first year itself. So this resulted in bringing in more fallow land into cultivation. It almost multiplied by 9 times. Only 4 acres that used to be under cultivation went up to 35 hectares. And we could really generate income not just from the Kharif and even Rabi also. I mean, in fact, the Rabi cropping was much larger because of the water availability, and the gross income per year almost rose more than 10 times. This is a collective income of the community, and this is how we can justify the investment that we make for the rainwater harvesting structures. And this is an example of how the investments that we make in rainwater harvesting. There was a thinking sometime that these investments in natural resource management are not immediately paying. They have a long gestation period, which are actually untrue, which can be really the gestation period can be as low as a few months, just one cropping season. Next one, please. Yeah, this is probably the last slide. And how did we attain certain system level outcomes in order to ensure the community participates in this and provide resilience of groundwater recharge by building groundwater resilience to make it sure that the people will get enough water for the entire season of their rabi crop, be it chickpea or wheat or mustard. So there has always been a very good support, and the yield response of these crops will be very high if there is a possibility of giving a few irrigations during the rabi season, although the water demand during rabi season will be much less compared to what it is in the rabi season. And of course, land degradation is a very big issue in the entire Bundelkhand region, as most part of it occurs in the Chambal Valley, which is infamous for its land degradation, and bringing in crop diversification. So we also diversified it with heavily planting with agroforestry species, which are useful for the communities, be it teak or fodder yielding trees or fruit trees, based on the farmer's choice. More than 300,000 plants were planted across this region. And of course, as I already explained, improved crop management practices, and brought in a lot of livestock related interventions also to get in the participation of women in particular. So if you look at this graph, we have diversified the portfolio of engaging with these communities by the rainwater harvested and making it available for multiple uses, as well as diversifying their enterprise. The next is just a picture. I would appreciate you to have a look at this picture, which will actually say many things. Next one, please. The last one. So this is how you can see the Havelis harvested a lot of water. The earthen bund you see, below which there is a core wall, and we have also made arrangements for the surplus water to escape from these Havelis safely without actually breaching the walls. And this was a lot of design was also improved, the traditional Havelis. And look at the level of water that has risen in these wells because of the interventions that were taken on a landscape. So the approach here, just one last sentence, I'll conclude. The approach that we have adopted in this region, the driest, one of the most challenging part of our country in the central India, is combining the landscape approach with the farm level approach. The landscape approach provides security of water, preventing ecosystem services, as well as controlling soil degradation, thereby helping increase the moisture availability to the farms for engaging in productive crop production. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Srinath, for that very impressive presentation, combining both the landscape as well as the agri programs. 1 year return just shows you the economic value of your intervention. That's tremendous. Those numbers speak for themselves. If you can show that in a year's time you can get the return, I think it's a model that's worth looking at for application. 6,000 acres is also substantive, but if you were to make a suggestion how your model could be adopted by stakeholders to go to the next level, what would be those suggestions?
Absolutely. This is a really very important question for us and even for many of the state governments. In fact, the governments, this is funded by the government of UP, and the government of UP actually invited us to invited ICRISAT to demonstrate the productive potential by combining this kind of interventions, rainwater harvesting interventions across Bundelkhand, and set examples and learning sites in each of the 7 districts of Bundelkhand, and we took up an area of 5,000 hectares in each of these districts. And now that we are very confident of developing this kind of a model over a landscape of 5,000 hectares, and now we also have looked at many other areas within Bundelkhand where this can be practiced on one site, about 30,000 hectares covering nearly 30-40 village clusters. That is where the confidence level will go high, and this can be replicated in more quickly and in large numbers. So this 5,000 hectares spreading too thinly in too many places may not really be catching the attention of the governments, which would rather like to have impacts on much larger scale, looking at, of course, the size of the country, the enormity of the problem. We really need to scale it up to larger proportions, and I think that we are now ready, and the governments must also come forward to really experiment this one on much larger scale. And our next step would be to try this model on a contiguous area of say about 25 to 30,000 hectares, covering about 20, 30, 40 villages in a contiguous way, and particularly choosing those areas which are very dry and on the ridge areas and having very frequent droughts and crop failures.
Fair enough. I think suggestions accepted. Between WRG and NWM, we will try and disseminate this model and certainly support its expansion in the way that you've described. Thank you so much. May I turn now to CARE International and to Mr. Sunil Padale to make his interventions, talking about their grassroots work and how it relates to community participation, and what are the models that you've used to include them? Thanks.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Anilji. First of all, thank you very much to the National Water Mission and to the WRG for inviting us to share our experiences on this forum. Thanks a lot to Mr. Ashok Kumar and also to Mr. Umrao ji also for the wonderful context setting that they did initially for this event. I'll very quickly share, I'm mindful of the time, and I'll very quickly share our experiences on the aspect of water management. First of all, I would like to share that CARE essentially globally and also in India focuses very significantly on empowering women and girls. And in that context, for us, the central point, the hinge on where we start our work on water management is really drinking water. Drinking water because somewhere it is it embodies what happens across the water scenario at the village level and also at the block or the district level, at the micro watershed, macro watershed level, on various aspects related to groundwater management, surface water management, wastewater management. And therefore, our starting point is drinking water. It's also, especially since we work a lot with women, it's also an aspect on which women are very passionately kind of have very passionate views about, and they're very passionately involved, and it's easier to kind of facilitate their leadership in the water sector with drinking water as the center point. We also believe very strongly that, especially for water management, to ensure effective solutions and also to ensure sustainability of solutions, partnerships are very important. Partnerships, I think Rajiv mentioned about convergence, and we believe that the communities really should be the center point of convergence. Communities really should be the platform around which convergence is built, depending upon the capacities, the absorption capacity, and also the also the priorities which communities express. Also in terms of mobilizing resources, financial resources, intellectual resources, innovative solutions, partnerships, keeping a focus on partnerships helps significantly. So all our processes with the women's groups that we work with focus significantly on collaboration, focus significantly on partnerships. How we do it, I'm just coming to that. Just for an example of how we kind of facilitate the movement of women from the household to groups to action around water. I'll share some of our experiences in both in Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra, since these are the focus states here, and a little bit of similar work in UP also through support that we're receiving from USAID and GAP, where we are working with, currently we have worked with more than 100,000 women. We take them through very intensive capacity building courses of 6 months, which are PACE modules. They're very structured modules, very participatory and extremely engaging modules, which take these women's groups through various aspects of communication both within the household. How do they communicate their problems with regards to water, both within the household and also at the community level and outside also with government agencies, etc. Problem solving, conflict resolution, financial entitlements also, because there's a very strong element of financial resourcing which needs to be built into especially poor communities, because very often they do not have the capacities themselves at that point to invest in water related infrastructure, but linkages or long-term models of financial models certainly help them to mobilize resources around solutions for water, effective water management. And then of course all of this communication, problem solving, etc., towards the end of 6 months we bring it around water management. The focus in these very intensive modules is around stimulating self-action, action both within the household and also at the group level, at the village level, through improved knowledge, through improved life skills, and through also building a shared vision around water resources in the village. We at the end of the 6 months, we also have a very interesting process of linking them with government officials, with local people representatives, and also with other organizations that are working in the same villages, especially around water, through what we call interface meetings, which are extremely dynamic meetings where women raise their issues with regards to water, and also they negotiate solutions with the various stakeholders. What we're now seeing as the process is going ahead, like I said, we've already taken 100,000 women through these very intensive processes. Over the next 2 years, we're looking at working with 100,000 additional women. What we're seeing now is a lot of self-action, especially among some of the poorest groups, both in MP and in Maharashtra, around mobilizing resources, both through government programs and also through private sector support around water resources, in terms of water conservation structures, in terms of also drinking water assets, and that's a process that we are currently in the process of documenting. So very briefly, that was what CARE has been doing. If there are any further questions, I would be very happy to take them. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Sunil. Any lessons of experience you'd like to share of community participation? What works for you? What doesn't work?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Anil. That's an excellent question. I think what works is certainly a very structured process of capacity building, because where initially the process is with communities, especially with women's groups, and with women in general, because when it comes to water, women are generally kind of in terms of bullet points somewhere at the end of the page. So especially working with women, a structured program has definitely helped. Building in very systematic linkages with government agencies through this process work, that is also something which has helped in these groups going forward. We've also have what we call champions. We develop, we identify and then we develop capacities of specific women from each group. So these are groups of 30 women each, which we call learning groups. And we also build champions from these groups who then kind of work, who then in many cases have taken ahead water-related engagement with both with government, with other organizations, also as community leaders themselves. So these are some of the broad learning lessons which we've had, Anil.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sunil. I think we'll all agree that it's been a very rich panel with models and experience from people who are doing it on the ground and doing it successfully. 3 different ways of approaching it, but all 3 successful. The key is the value of water and ensuring that the community or the farmers are valuing it. I'm not talking about pricing, but valuing it and eventually leading to better livelihoods. That model we've seen is important one, and certainly with drinking water, women are the most affected by that. So bringing them in, I think, is an important issue. I'll, with your permission, bring this panel to a close. Thank all the 3 panelists for their excellent presentations and their excellent work on the ground. I'd like to now request Mr. Sunil Arora to please give the vote of thanks, and for Mr. Shokumar or anybody to give any last thoughts or last comments. From my point of view, it would be great to capture these models as part of the NWM knowledge dissemination process, both the good and the bad and the success, and what are the key drivers that made it successful. So with that, I'll close. Mr. Sunil Arora, vote of thanks to you.
Thank you very much.
Before that, Sunil, just one point. It was a wonderful discussion and very, very interesting points of you had come from various sources. In fact, National Water Mission had been pioneering a lot of initiatives in involving people and making people understand the value of water. We are propagating the concept of 5 R's: the reduce, reuse, recycle, and the recover, and the respect for water. So this is one thing which we had in focus, because if you want to value water, we should respect water, and then the water wastage can be avoided, and also people will come out with innovative ways of saving and conserving water. We had been taking up a lot of water talks, and these are all available in our website. If you look at nwm.gov.in, Catch the Rain has a lot of discussions, webinars. Almost 150 webinars have taken place by now. And the water talk as a separate area. So a lot of all the 21 water talks which we held so far is also available in the platform. Also at the web talk, that's also available. Sorry, tech talk, that's also available. And the last one about the district meeting with the district magistrates, 50 district magistrates and about 10 municipal commissioners we have brought in under the Catch the Rain campaign discussions. They are also been there. So many ideas discussed here were also had come in and discussed in those panels. It was good that we have got a wider audience today. And many of the suggestions are very interesting, very important. But I want all of you, because many of you have so rich experience in the field and good connect in the field. The next campaign which we are taking up is probably will start on March 22nd, World Water Day. I'm probably shooting my mouth off if I say the program, but this is almost tentatively approved program is that from March 22nd we'll be launching of the Jal Shakti Abhiyan 2 Catch the Rain campaign may happen. It's in the approval stage, so I'm not making any final announcement on that. But since this platform, we may not get all of you next time. So I'm telling that please involve all your stakeholders, all your people, all your people associated with you in that campaign to make this campaign a great success. We intend to do the mapping of all the water bodies, geotag all the water bodies, and inventorize every water body in the district. As one aspect. We also would like to go for construction of rooftop rainwater harvesting structures in all the government buildings, particularly the buildings like the school, the Anganwadi centers and the PSCs. Why schools are important? Because these rainwater harvesting structures would actually trigger some curiosity among the minds of the young children. And probably that can improve water literacy and also do some sort of in the mind of the people, all the young children, and their respect for water and also for their love for water and probably urge them and through them their parents for conservation of water. So this is what we were looking at it. Because I have had many examples where the women, when the children, young children who were initiated into certain processes like this, were catalyst and instrumental in taking up many works. A case in point is when we did about 1.5 lakh toilets in Nizamabad in 2001. I could do about 1.5 lakh toilets, Pakka toilets in 2001 in Nizamabad, where I was a DM. We actually took the route to the school children. We constructed toilets for thousands schools, Pakka toilets, and the girls' school got used to the toilets. They were not dropping out of the schools. Our school retention increased, and they in turn put pressure on the parents when we started this campaign called Shubhrada to construct ISLs in the houses. It was these children who actually pressurized their parents to go for 1 lakh toilets, 1.5 lakh toilets. And the best part was that it was not a contractor-driven program. It was a totally people-driven program. And that's why in 6 months, we could do about 1 lakh toilets. We did about 1.5 lakh toilets in 1 year. But in 6 months, we completed about 1 lakh toilets. That was a huge success, all because of the drive and the push from the girl children in the school where they got used to the toilets in the schools. So please use these. That's why we thought rainwater harvesting structures also should come up in the schools so that the children will be interested. They will understand the value of water. They will know how this water conservation can be done. These things can be put in their mind, and that can be a better base for building upon it. So thanks a lot. I wish that you will continue to join in our discussions in the other 3 webinars coming up, and also in the various fora where National Water Mission and other stakeholders come for discussion on that. Probably we may look at something on the World Women's Day. We will look for a webinar on on gender issues and water. That's also being planned. Thanks all of you for making these wonderful presentations, wonderful ideas. We can definitely do a lot of work in the field and make probably the Tanker Mukt Bharat dream a reality. Thank you. Sunil.
Thank you, sir. Wow, what a great session it was. Additional Secretary and Mission Director, National Water Mission, Principal Secretary, Government of Madhya Pradesh, senior dignitaries, esteemed moderators, guest speakers, and my dear friends, a very, very good afternoon to all of you. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion to such an intellectual delegates. Let me first of all start by giving glory to the Almighty God for making today's occasion a resounding success. On behalf of National Water Mission and Water Resources Group of the World Bank, I convey my hearty thanks to all of you for sparing your valuable time for attending this webinar on blending community participation and technology innovation in sustainable water resource management with a focus on rainwater harvesting. I convey my special thanks to MD sir for taking initiative for getting this webinar organized and conveying his views on today's theme. Thank you, sir, for your interesting and thought-provoking address, which has really set a perfect platform for this webinar. Today, my words are not enough to express my special gratitude and sincere thanks to our respected guest speakers who have joined from different places of the world and to enlighten us to about rainwater harvesting through effective people's participation, as well as about the technologies and infrastructures involved in it. As you must have listened to Mr. Ajit Radhakrishnan, as he has tossed a thought about collaborative capital for water conservation. How can it be achieved in the states? Principal Secretary Sir has also narrated the success story of Devas district. We should appreciate his invitation to Devas and to take some teachings from the poor farmers. Thank you, sir, for your kind gesture. Other speakers had also conveyed their experiences in very simple manner about today's theme. I cannot speak so much about this because a lot of information was today conveyed. We appreciate your knowledge and ideas about rainwater harvesting. I believe we all have been profited from your wealth of learning and experiences. We are proud of you all, sir. A big salute to you. My heartfelt thanks to go out to all the delegates who have connected themselves to this webinar through virtual medium and had a patient hearing of our speakers and making this success eventful and successful. May God bless you all. Today we are leaving this place along with the great experience of our speakers on why we should and how we should go for rainwater conservation through people's participation. Last but not the least, I will fail in my duties if I do not convey my sincere thanks to Team Water Resources Group, Team National Water Mission, Team Water Digest, who have worked behind the screen by giving their wholeheartedly support in organizing this webinar. Thanks to all of you again, including attendees, for making this webinar a meaningful and eventful program. At last, I want to say, when not in use, don't let the water flow. We all must conserve the H2O. That's all from my side. Take care, be safe, have social distancing, wear masks. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Can I request everyone to please take a picture? Can everyone please turn on the cameras for a second and we'll just take a group picture, please? May I request everyone to please turn on the cameras? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pia. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.